Savitri answered the almighty death. Oh, yes, I have triumphed over thee within. O death, not for my heart's sweet poignancy, nor for my happy body's bliss alone. I have claimed from thee the living Satyavan, but for his work and mine, our sacred charge. Our lives are God's messengers beneath the stars, to dwell under death's shadow. They have come, tempting God's light to earth for the ignorant race. to the woman. Death, the god, replied, O human face, put off mind-painted masks. The animal be, the worm that nature meant, accept thy future birth, thy narrow life. But Savitri replied to mighty death, my heart is wiser than the reason's thought. My heart is stronger than thy bond, O death. It sees and feels the one heartbeat in all. It feels the high transcendent sunlight hands.
Good morning, everyone. Before we start today, there's a few things that I want to share. First thing is perhaps you may have seen the Mass Bulletin already, that our very dear long-term Aurovillian sister Janet has quietly left her body like yesterday, I think, after being ill for a long time. She's really one of the very, very first people. I think she's the first person to build a little peat house on the top of a palmyra tree in center field there. And her two children have grown up here. So we think of them all today with gratitude and love.
What's the name of it?
Janet Fern, I think, was her family name. Yeah. She's the mother of Laura and of Sukrit. Another thing I want to express today is appreciation of the work of our small but dedicated technical team. Thank you, because they are the ones who make it possible not only for us to have films like this, but also that these sessions where we gather together as a family, other people all over the globe are joining us and enjoying these sessions together with us. So that's something really special to be appreciated. Last week, somehow at the end, there was some kind of misunderstanding, which I think we should try and sort out now. In all the years we've been having these classes, I've been inviting people to read. And occasionally they didn't want to, and then that was quite all right. But I was surprised last week that we had a moment when it wasn't clear whether a person was to read or not read. I hear myself saying, if you don't want to read, then yes, I don't know. I said something stupid which I'd like to take back. Of course, everybody can get their chance to read if they are willing. But it might happen that somebody is asked to read, and not only they're not willing to read, or maybe they're willing to read, but they don't want to be filmed. And we hadn't ever discussed that before, so it hasn't been clear. So what we're suggesting is that if you find yourself in that position, that you're being given the opportunity to read, and somebody is coming at you with a camera, and you really don't want to be filmed, then you can make a little gesture and show that you don't want it. And that will be respected by the cameraman. I hope that will be okay. Yeah. And then we will see with the cameraman, probably he will do a general shot to fill in any gap that might be there. You will see how you do this.
Enrich the film. In this case, Suresh takes a photo and just goes at a distance.
Yeah. It's never come up before, I think.
The microphone question.
For that, I guess for that passage, we won't have a perfect reading audible. It's okay. You understand the idea? If I understand well, somebody who wants to read but doesn't want to be filmed can still read, and then Suresh will take a panoramic view of everybody, not focusing on that person specifically. Like that we can still incorporate that. Just to clarify, if we are filming you, it's because after the class there's a big camera here which is recording Shravan. Small camera records when you are reading, and then we assemble everything and we publish that on YouTube and our website as a final
Version.
which is a better quality than what we are broadcasting live through YouTube now. That's the purpose.
The only thing I noticed is that the people, you are very clearly understood when I watch it on YouTube, but the people who are reading, they are difficult to understand anyway. Hence,
Or second camera with a microphone who will come close to the person. So that doesn't work on the broadcast on YouTube, but in the edited version, which will be uploaded later on, then you will have perfect audition of Shravan and of the audience. But in the broadcast, we can't make it, because we need to go with a microphone close to everybody, which doesn't work.
but in the final version, the text will come.
Also.
So perhaps that's clear now. Another thing is, as probably everybody's aware, next Sunday is Sri Aurobindo's birthday. Yes. And for that occasion, our Divine Flowers group are organizing a beautiful exhibition of flowers in front of the building. Is it?
Square hall.
Sorry? In the square hall. In the square hall. And our new secretary, Dr. Jayanti, has been invited to inaugurate that gathering at about 10 o'clock.
Yes, 10 o'clock.
At 10 o'clock. So everybody's welcome to gather around her at that time, to gather around. And then we'll try and gather here again by 10:30 as usual.
The class will be as usual at 10.
Sorry?
The class will be as usual at 10.
We'll try and keep it as close to 10:30 as possible, yes. So Joelle, who's keeping track of the text, tells me that we're in Book 10, Canto 3. In my big book here, it's page 625, and it's line 140, which is 2 lines from the top of the page. This is part of Savitri's long response to death. He has given his view of the world of truth, doing everything he can to discourage her and to make her give up her aim of saving Satyavan from death, bringing him back safely to earth. This figure of death is doing everything he can to discourage her, but he's not succeeding very well. And what we're reading here is part of her long response to him. I'll read about half a page and then we can go around.
Where are you reading?
I'm on page 625 at the second line from the top of the page. The enormous circle of her wonder works. These are the wonder works of the Supreme Mother. Savitri is speaking about the creative power of the Mighty Mother. Maybe I go back to the bottom of page 624 and I will start from there. The Mighty Mother, her creation wrought. A huge caprice, self-bound by iron laws, and shut God into an enigmatic world. She lulled the omniscient into nescient sleep. Omnipotence on inertia's back she drove, trod perfectly with divine, unconscious steps the enormous circle of her wonder works. Immortality assured itself by death. The Eternal's face was seen through drifts of time. His knowledge he disguised as ignorance. His good he sowed in evil's monstrous bed, made error a door by which truth could enter in. His plant of bliss watered with sorrow's tears. 1,000 aspects point back to the one. A dual nature covered the unique. In this meeting of the Eternal's mingling masks, this tangled dance of passionate contraries, locking like lovers in a forbidden embrace, the quarrel of their lost identity. In this wrestle and wrangle of the extremes of power, Earth's million roads struggled towards deity. All stumbled on behind a stumbling guide. Yet every stumble is a needed pace on unknown routes to an unknowable goal. All blundered and straggled towards the one divine. Anybody would like to ask anything about this passage?
Trod perfectly with divine, unconscious steps.
Yes, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yes, because this is part of the mother's action. It's at the bottom of page 624 and top of page 625. This is part of the action of the Mighty Mother working out her creation. So she sends the omniscient, the one who knows everything, into a nescient sleep. Perhaps this is the creation of matter. of unconscious matter. No? Omnipotence. She has all power and she's driving that all power forward, but on the back of inertia. Again, this suggests the state of matter, which can't move by itself. It has to be driven. So it's the mother, the mighty mother, who is treading perfectly with divine, unconscious steps the enormous circle of her wonder works. It's paradoxical, contradictory, and yet somehow very revealing. Eugen, would you like to read?
155.
Immortality assured itself.
Which one?
So have you got the place? In my book it's 625 at the top. Line 141. Yeah.
Immortality assured itself by death. The Eternal's face was seen through drifts of time. His knowledge he disguised as ignorance. His good, he sought in Evil's monstrous day, made error a door by which truth could enter in. His plant of bliss watered with sorrow's tears. 1,000 aspects point back to the one. The dual nature covered the union. In this meeting of the Eternal's mingling masks, this tango dance of passionate contraries, looking like lovers in a forbidden embrace. The quarrel of their lost identity through this wrestle and wrangle of the extremes of power. Earth's million roads traveled towards deity. All stumbled on behind the stumbling guide, yet every stumble is a needed pace on unknown routes to an unknowable way. All blundered and straggled towards the one behind. As if transmuted by a titan spell, the eternal powers assumed a dubious face, idols of an oblique divinity. They wore the heads of angel or troll, assumed ears of the form, the satyr's roof, or harbored the demoniac in their gaze. A crooked maze they made of thinking mind. They suffered the metamorphosis of the night, admitting fashioned revelers from the night into its sanctuary of delights, as in a Dionysian masquerade. On the highways and the gardens of the world, they wallowed oblivious of their divine parts, as drunkards on a dire circling wine.
Thank you. Thank you. So shall we pause there?
Or a child who sprawls and sports in nature's mind.
Thank you. Full stop. Yeah. This is a strange picture that Savitri is painting on, the way that the Supreme Divine Mother creates in a very paradoxical way, on unknown routes to an unknowable goal. And yet the Sri Aurobindo is telling us that all this is necessary. All this blundering and straggling It's all going towards the one divine. But during this phase of development or of creation, it's as if all the divine powers are transmuted by a Titan spell. They've been disguised. Their appearance has been changed. They become idols of an oblique divinity. There's something not straight about it. These divine powers take on the appearance, heads of animals or trolls. I think last week also we had this word troll. It's from the Norwegian mythology. These are creatures, during the day they live in rocks. But at night they can emerge, and if they happen to catch anybody's sheep or even human beings, they will devour them. But they have to return to their rock homes before the first little light of dawn, because they will just get transmuted back into their original stony form. So she's comparing this transmutation, this strange disguise that the eternal powers put on. They wore the heads of animals or trolls. They have fawn's ears, like those little wood spirits that are there in Greek and Roman mythology. They're like goats who walk on their hind ears, and fawn's ears. Hands. And the cloven hoof. Somebody asked about that last week, I think. No? Cloven hoof, which is the mark of the devil. These beings, they may be divine powers, but they're divine powers in disguise, and they're holding something demoniac in their eyes. So these powers have made a crooked maze of thinking mind. Yeah. Something distorted about the way that mind works. And they allowed a metamorphosis of the heart. Metamorphosis means a change of form. So they're allowing bacchant revelers from the night, this orgies of night revelers. They are worshippers of Dionysus, who has brought wine into the world and the intoxication of so this makes these beings wallowing like animals in the mud, on the highways, in the gardens of the world. They wallow, and they have forgotten about their divine parts. They've become drunk with this dire Circean wine, the wine of Circe, the enchantress, which turns you into an animal. They are like those drunkards turned into animals. Or they're like children sprawling and sporting in nature's mire. There's a beautiful aphorism of Sri Aurobindo about this child rolling in the mud. he says, I have seen this divine child beautifully dressed up by his mother, or having rolled into a puddle. In both cases, he's perfectly divine and pure.
Straddle.
Sorry?
Straddle. Meaning of straddle.
Oh, to straggle. Yes. If you're in a procession or are running our marathon, no, you're running the marathon and at the front there's a whole bunch of people together, but as it gets more and more towards the end, there are more and more stragglers who are not able to keep up with the others. So blundering, tripping up, making mistakes, and straggling, not being able to keep up with the whole procession or whatever it is. To straggle.
And who is the stumbling guide?
Yes, who is this stumbling guide?
155.
It's line 155, yes. Everything in the world, in the creation, in the evolution, Earth's million roads, they're all struggling towards the divine. But the guide who is leading them is not yet omniscient. He's a stumbling guide.
And what is mask? M-A-S-K.
It's a kind of party, fancy dress party, where people disguise themselves.
Masquerade.
A masquerade, yes.
Same as masquerade.
Yes, except in this mask, it may be an entertainment. We may have some people here performing disguised in masks.
Actually, the Dionysian masquerade was done by the women.
That's right.
Being wine forbidden to be drunk by women. And they meted in the forest in the night to be the Dionysian riders to be admitted as priests in the cult of Dionysus, which was not permitted for women. So they had to cover the face to be recognized. But everyone within that cover, there's a sort of role exchange developing towards that sublime state which Dionysus, however, gives. There's a beautiful film on the page called The Villa of the Mysteries, where you can see painted in the iconography on
The Dionysian worship. They're painted there on the walls of the villa, the Dionysian dancers.
It's a beautiful painting.
Yeah.
It's life size with that famous Pompeian red color. It's cynical. Which is called a mystery because it's a mystery meditation. It's also a mystery why it's publicly painted, why it was officially forbidden by the Romans for women to drink wine. They could not drink.
What I like also very much is the mortality assured itself by death, and we just get deep in the knowledge of it. It's amazing, it's just an opening, and total opening.
Yeah, what does it tell you, Margaret? What this immortality secured itself by death? What does it mean for you?
It means that how the normal people are thinking next. It's not the truth. It is a process.
It's
Death is such a passing step, and we have to understand death in the right way to understand immortality.
Yes.
Also, otherwise we cannot understand immortality.
Yes. Right. There's a line somewhere, it says it's a stumbling stride into the next life towards immortality. Yes. Bhuvan, now would you read?
Yes.
Even wisdom.
Even wisdom, fear of the rose of thorns. is a partner in the deep, disastrous game. Lost is the pilgrim's valet on the street. She failed to read the map and watch the star. A poor, self-righteous virtue is her straw, and reason's pragmatic group or abstract side, or the technique of a brief hour's success. She teaches and ushers in utilities school. On the ocean surface of vast consciousness, small thoughts in shoals are fished up into a net, but the great truth escapes her narrow passage. Guarded from vision by creation's death, obscure they swim in blind enormous gulf, saved from the little sounding leaves of mind. Who fall for the puny diver's shallow quench? Our mortal vision peers with ignorant eyes. It has no gaze on the deep heart of things. Our knowledge walks leaning on error's stride. A worshipper of false dogmas and false God, a fanatic of a fierce, intolerant creed, or a seeker doubting every truth he finds, a skeptic facing life with adamant no, or chilling the heart with dry, ironic smile, a cynic stamping on the God in man, a darkness valued in the paths of time, or lifts his giant cage to block the stars. It makes a cloud of the interpreting mind and intercepts the oracles of the sun.
Thank you. So this is even wisdom, now the great divine power of wisdom, who hews the roads of God, who makes smooth the way to the divine. In this stage of development, even wisdom is a partner in this deep game, and the poet says it's a disastrous game. Lost is the pilgrim's wallet and the scrip. She fails to read the map and watch the star.
What is
Scrip, yes. These two lines are an allusion to a book which, after the Bible, has been the most read book in the English language. It's called The Pilgrim's Progress. And this is an incident in this story. It's an allegorical story of the search for the divine, in fact, the passage, the journey towards the divine. So the central character of this story, his name is Christian, and he has become aware that there is a truer life and a greater life that he has to aspire for and work towards. And it's a story of his journey and the difficulties that he meets on the way. So one of the things that he meets on the way is that he's invited in to a friendly house where he's welcomed and given advice for the future steps of his journey. And so he leaves that house and moves on the next stage of his journey with great hope and happiness in his heart. But then somehow he forgets on the way. He's been given a wallet, a bag, in which to keep some food, and he's been given a map, a scrip, which tells him which way he has to go. But he falls asleep on the way. And then he wakes up and realizes, oh, it's become dark and I must hurry. And he just rushes off on the road. And it's some time before he realizes, oh, I've lost that nourishment that I was given, and I've lost the directions, the instructions. So I have to start all over again. No?
What was the name of the book?
Sorry?
The name of the book?
The name of the book is The Pilgrim's Progress. Pilgrim's Progress. It was at a time when ordinary Christians who were not Catholics, they were non-believers and they were persecuted. And during he was thrown into jail for that reason. And then he had all these visions and he wrote this book. And it's been a wonderful guide for spiritual seekers for the last 400 years or something.
Author?
His name is John Bunyan, Bunyan. He was just an ordinary person, but he had this vision and this realization, and he's written about it in his book. And it's a book worth reading, although it's written in a kind of old-fashioned style. It's not a modern prose novel or anything like that. And it's allegorical. If we want a good example of an allegory, this story is an allegory. So this is still about wisdom, no? She fails to read the map and watch the star which will guide her. Rita, would you like to read?
Where did she stop?
A poor self-righteous virtue is her stock. Fourth line from the top. Top of page 626, line 4. From the top. A poor self-righteous virtue is her stock.
Okay, may I read from our mortal vision? It's fine.
It's right at the top of the page, Rita.
Reason's pragmatic growth or abstract sight,
Yes.
or the technique of a brief hour's success, she teaches an usher in utilities school. On the ocean surface of vast consciousness, small thoughts in shoals are fished up into a net, but the great truths escape her narrow cast. Guarded from vision by creation's depths, obscure they swim in blind, enormous gulfs, safe from the little sounding leads of mind. Too far for the puny diver's shallow plunge.
Shall we look at that passage now? Yes. So this is wisdom, who has lost the pilgrim's wallet and the script. And now what has she got? A poor, self-righteous virtue is her stock. That's the only thing of some value. And she can use reason which is pragmatic, practical. It's groping around for what is useful. Or reason can also use an abstract sight, There's a whole passage earlier in the book about the way that we can use reason. Or she's a teacher. She's not a very advanced teacher, she's just an usher. In the old-fashioned schools, the teachers would have helpers, the ushers, who would see that the children did their homework properly or didn't misbehave and so on. She's working in utility school, in what seems to be useful. The technique of a brief hour's success. So that's leaving aside everything that's happening on the ocean surface of vast consciousness. On the surface of the ocean, small thoughts are there, and they can be caught in shoals, lots of small fish at a time, fished up into a net. But the great truths, which are hidden in that ocean of consciousness, she can't catch in her net. They get away. They escape her narrow cast. I think casting is when the fisherman throws a single line, and he may have a fly on the end to attract a fish that he can catch. Those great truths are hidden, they are obscure, they're swimming in blind, enormous gulfs, deep, deep down. They are guarded from vision. She can't see them because of the depths of creation. They are quite safe from the little sounding leads of mind. Mind can measure a small distance in the ocean, but it can't go into the deep depths. Those blind, enormous gulfs are far too deep for the puny diver's shallow plunge. Puny means weak. Of course, there are divers who can dive deep and stay there very long and come up with wonderful pearls, but that's not the little sounding leads of mind. Tuan, you want to read?
Our mortal vision peers with ignorant eyes. It has no gaze on the deep heart of things. Our knowledge walks leaning on an ever stars, a worshipper of false dogmas and false gods, or fanatic of a fierce, intolerant creed, or a seeker doubting every truth he finds, a skeptic facing light with adamant no, or chilling the heart with dry, ironic smile, a cynic stamping out the God in man. The darkness wallows in the paths of time, or lifts its giant head to block the stars. It makes a cloud of the interpreting mind and intercepts the orbits of the sun. Yet light is there. It stands at nature's doors. It holds a torch to lead the traveler in. It waits to be kindled in our secret cells. It's a star lighting an ignorant sea, a lamp upon our poor piercing the night. As knowledge grows like flames up from within, it's a shining warrior in the mind, an eagle of dreams in the divining heart, an armor in the fight, a bow of God.
Thank you. So Savitri is describing our normal consciousness, our mortal vision, which peers with ignorant eyes that are not able to interpret what they see. Our mortal vision, which is dominated by ignorance. Can't look, it can't gaze on the deep heart of things. We do cultivate a kind of knowledge, but we're always supporting our knowledge on a staff, walking stick of error. It's as if we have to err, we have to make mistakes in order to find things out. Our knowledge is like a worshipper of false dogmas and false gods, false teachings, false views of what is divine. Or we can see it very often, how fanatical we are about the few little things that we've become convinced about. A fanatic. Of a fierce, intolerant creed. We can't stand it if anybody disagrees with our error. Or the other extreme, we can be like a seeker who's doubting every truth we find. A skeptic. We think it's very clever and intelligent to doubt and to question. But that may lead us to face every light that comes to us. We say no to it. We can't believe, we can't accept it. Or chilling the heart with a dry, ironic smile. The person who thinks he's found a wonderful truth that can save him, we just mock him. What nonsense are you talking? A cynic. The cynics were people who doubted and challenged everything, stamping out the God in man. So because of this, there's a darkness, wallowing. I think we had this word not long ago. Usually it's hippopotamuses wallowing in the mud. No. But this is a wallowing, this is darkness, wallowing in the paths of time. Or that darkness lifts its head to blot out the stars. We can't see those many lights of truth. They're covered up by that shadow, those clouds, wallowing, dark clouds. This giant head of doubt blots out the stars. And all this makes a cloud of the interpreting mind, the mind that is supposed to guide us, help us to reach knowledge. But it's clouded and intercepts the oracles of the sun, the divine messages that would be coming to us if we were open to receive them. But the next lines are more cheerful, I think. Paula, would you like to read?
Then larger dawns arrive, and wisdom's comps cross.
Just go back a little bit further to line 202. Yet light is there.
Okay. Yet light is there. It stands at nature's doors. It holds a torch to lead the traveler in. It waits to be kindled in our secret cells. It is a star, lighting an ignorant sea. A lamp upon our poop, piercing the night. As knowledge grows, light flames up from within. It is a shining warrior in the mind, an eagle of dreams in the divining heart, an armor in the fight, a bow of God. Then larger dawns arrive, and wisdom's pomps cross through the being's dim, half-lighted fields. Philosophy climbs up thought's cloud-banked peaks, and science tears out nature's occult powers, enormous jinns who serve the dwarf's small needs, exposes the sealed minutiae of her art, and conquers her by her own captive force. On heights unreached by minds most daring soar, upon a dangerous edge of failing time, the soul draws back into its deathless self. Man's knowledge becomes God's supernal ray. There is the mystic realm whence leaps the power whose fire burns in the eyes of seer and sage, a lightning flash of visionary sight. It plays upon an inward verge of mind. Thought, silenced, gazes into a brilliant void. A voice comes down from mystic unseen peaks, a cry of splendor from a mouth of storm. It is the voice that speaks to nights profound. It is the thunder and the flaming call. Above the plains that climb from nescient earth, a hand is lifted towards the invisible's realm. Beyond the superconscious blinding line, and plucks away the screams of the unknown. A spirit within looks into the eternal's eyes. It hears the word to which our hearts were deaf. It sees through the blaze in which our thoughts grew blind. It drinks from the naked breasts of glorious truth. It learns the secrets of eternity.
Thank you. So light is there, and it's standing at nature's doors, holding a torch to show us the way, to lead the traveler in. And that light is just waiting to be kindled, to be set alight in our secret cells, in our body. That light is a guiding star lighting up a sea of ignorance. Or it's like a lamp on the poop of our ship. Perhaps you remember that series of Huta's paintings which shows the development of our human evolution from the little boat, and we go further, and there's always this light on our poop guiding us, the guiding light of our boat, of our journey.
What is a boat here?
Yes, it's the highest part of the boat, no, at the front. Am I right?
The children's word poop also fits well.
Completely different. You have a look in the gallery or in the books for... Sorry?
It's like a stand or like a column on the ship which guides the boat.
Yes, there's very often on the poop there's a figurehead. There's with eyes which are supposed to guide the ship. But anyway, in those little drawings of Huta has made, it's just the light there that's leading the ship the way it has to go.
Also, the fog is what directs you, no? I think that is used in these ways.
Yeah. So we read this about philosophy and science. These are enormous jinns. They're like the genies in the bottle, or the lamp. They are creatures who can, if you can control them, they can serve you. They may be very powerful, but be careful. They will be always trying to trick you. These enormous jinns, they're so powerful, but in our case, they serve the needs of a dwarf. This is about science, and what science is trying to do, tearing out the hidden powers of nature. But beyond that search of philosophy and science, then there's the soul's drawing back into its own deathless self. And then our human knowledge can become that supernal light, that ray of truth. There is the mystic's realm, from which comes the power, whose fire burns in the eyes of the seer and the sage, those who have true knowledge. That power is like a lightning flash of revelation, of visionary sight. And it's playing like lightning on an inward verge of mind. Then the power of thought falls silent, gazing into a brilliant emptiness.
Can you talk about the inward verge of mind?
About what?
The inward verge of mind.
An inward verge of mind, yes. A verge is an edge, a borderline. And this borderline seems to be turned inward. So then thought, the power of thought, is silenced. And it can look into this brilliant, empty space. And then the revelation may come. A voice can come down from the mystic, unseen peaks. That's carrying some very powerful message, a cry of splendor from a mouth of storm. That is the voice that speaks to the depths of night. It is the thunder and the flaming call. So when that power comes above the planes that climb up from our ignorant earth, a hand is lifted towards the invisible's realm, and that hand opens things up beyond the superconscious blinding line. It plucks away the screens of the unknown. Again, there's a picture in Huta's paintings of the finger of revelation which opens up that screen, plucks away the screens of the unknown. A spirit within looks into the Eternal's eyes. It hears the word to which our hearts were deaf. It sees through the blaze, the dazzling blaze in which our thoughts grew blind. We couldn't see there. That spirit within drinks from the naked breasts of glorious truth and learns the secrets of eternity. So this is a process, an evolving process of greater and greater knowledge. So Savitri says, this is the way, if you've been listening to me, this is the way that everything got plunged into riddling night. That the Lord has done this on purpose, and this is the way in which He's lifting everything up to meet a dazzling sun. O death, this is the mystery of thy reign. I know all your secrets. It's as if that's what Savitri is saying to him.
Is she telling about these larger dawns will be like this? 2:11, then larger dawns arrive and wisdom comes.
Yes.
These are the things.
Yes. So not just our little dawns, but really vast, wide dawns bringing so much illumination. I think this is a good place to stop, actually. Anybody has anything else they would like to ask? Minutiae, all the small details, tiny little details.
Earlier in the reading today, when we discussed Dionysian concept,
Yes.
that also comes in another part of Savitri.
Yes,
where
several
the
places.
Dionysian cup of joy.
Yes.
So it's a different connotation, would you say? The references. That the one is speaking of the Dionysian cup of joy is with the descending of the souls coming to the flaming pioneers, that section.
Yes.
That speaks of the Dionysian cup of joy.
Yes.
And then here we have this Dionysian reference. It's not quite as
It's not quite as
beneficent.
right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes, there's always something a bit dubious about the Bacchantes and the Dionysus and so on. Yeah. And yet it has its value.
Line 191, why is he put capital error, capital E and error? I don't understand.
Sorry, 191.
That's what I said. Line 191.
Yes, error. Our knowledge works leaning on error stuff. I think he's contrasting these two things, the knowledge and the error. They're both given as principles or powers here, and that's why he's given them both capital letters, I think. We have some capacity for knowledge, but we support it. That's actually the way that modern science works, no? It's by finding out what doesn't work. It's using error as a staff to support its explorations. Shall we stop there for today?
Death bowed his sovereign head in cold assent. I give to thee, saved from death and poignant fate, whatever once the living Satyavan desired in his heart for Savitri. Return, O child, to thy forsaken earth. But Savitri replied, thy gifts resist. Earth cannot flower if lonely I return.
Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.
The last name of the author of that book you just mentioned, the Pilgrim's Book. That's what the author. John.
Shall I write it
I
for
can
you?
write it. John
Bunyan.
Bunyan.